Okay.
Operator?
Yes, I'd like to call Arkansas.
Okay.
501-269-8711.
Thank you, Mr. Swann.
760561.
All right, just hold.
If you can turn it around, it might be nice, though. Now, is the radio humming?
Yeah.
How could that be?
Well, I've noticed that before.
It's not plugged in. Must be on the phone line.
Martha.
Yeah.
Ingo.
Oh, Ingo, how nice to hear your voice.
Same here.
Errol is down at the cottage. Just a minute and I'll call him.
Okay.
Can you hold the wire?
Uh-huh.
Thank you.
I hope he did it.
Maybe he does it down at the cottage. Yeah?
You want to focus it now?
Is it out of focus?
Well, how'd you make out?
Well, I don't know. How'd you make out?
I wrote about three pages as fast as I could write. What is contained therein, of course, you'll have to judge.
Right. Let me introduce you first before we start to Dr. Putoff and Russell Targ. Why don't you say hello to them?
Well, Russell Targ and Dr. Putoff, I'm very glad to meet you both over the phone. I've heard so much about both of you, I wish we could meet in person.
Well, thanks very much. We're enjoying doing this experiment, and it's nice to be talking to you on the phone.
Now, how do you want this material transmitted? Do you have a recorder, and can you hear?
Yes, we've got, we're videotaping Ingo's conversation with you, and we have tape recording going, so the two of you can just talk over what you saw, and the whole thing will get recorded. So I'll give you back to Ingo then.
Yes, that's fine.
Why don't you go first, Harold?
All right, now, will you be hearing what I'm reading at the same time you're recording?
Right.
I've written, it is now 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, and I am sitting in my special concentration room in the little house where Ingo Swann stayed when he visited us some weeks ago. As I prepare to direct my consciousness to the attempted probe of Jupiter, its appearances and conditions relative thereto, I'm immediately and associatively sucked into mental contact with the speeding space module Pioneer 10 and I can clearly see that it is at present traveling on a definite collision course with one of the largest Jupiter moons, and unless this course is ultimately altered, it will most certainly crash into it and end its investigative journey. Now I am carried ahead of it and am approaching the Jupiter moon itself, which seems larger than Earth, a great shiny revolving ball surrounded by a gigantic swirl of gases, giving off a golden glow and crystal-like diamond sparkles and unbelievable inner sight. I am still some distance from Jupiter, which I can see to the right of this moon. How far away? A million? I can't tell, perhaps more. Anyway, a great many miles distant, but awful spaces. And what an almost eye-blinding, brilliance it is radiating. I am sure physical eyesight could not stand what I am perceiving inwardly. I seem to be a speck, a particle, somehow free of the gravitational pull, which is affecting everything around me, able to see in all directions as I mentally look around. It is as though I am looking through a scope, seeing all this in miniature, and suddenly magnified into enormous size. The sensation comes and goes. These visions are inside me, then outside. There is a yellow cast to space, and seeming dark objects show up through it. Can they be other moons of contrasting colors or densities? The impressions come to me. There are 17, some yet undiscovered by Earth scientists, much closer to Jupiter. And the feeling also comes that some of them have been and are being spawned by the convulsive volcanic action in the interior of the gaseous masses of Jupiter, thrown off into space in newly forming vortices, which start a revolution of their own, gathering inconceivable gaseous forces and electrified particles to them, which adhere to these newly created masses and ultimately solidify into new moons. The feeling also comes that the sun originally, an unthinkably huge gaseous mass, in a mighty explosion, threw off vast gaseous balls, which became the planets we recognize today, including Jupiter, all ultimately achieving a gravitational balance in time and place. And in the process of gathering their own forces, these gaseous balls exploded in themselves and cast off parts of themselves in the form of moons or satellites, holding to them as parents hold to children their umbilical cords, the magnetic attraction between them. I'm tired tonight, and it's been a kind of exhausting experience, whatever it may be worth. I am now being shown many asteroids or apparent dark planets between Mars and Jupiter, some of which have life forms lesser or equivalent to ours. I am given the feeling that where there are great gaseous areas swirling vortices of increasing velocity, that these are new worlds in formation, and that an intelligence or directing force inconceivable to us is behind this incessant act of creation. Now I suddenly seem projected to a point where I feel I can see Jupiter itself, a spectacle beyond description. It looks like a huge red mass is moving across the face of Jupiter, from right to left, followed by a darker cloud of immense size. It is an elongation that stretches for miles and miles. A swirling mass as though generated and added to by eruptive magnetic and gaseous forces coming from the interior of Jupiter, which seems more liquid or vaporous than solid. Strange. I can see ice crystals. They are shimmering like trillions of silver needles, and I'm wondering if they're not icy cold. They seem to be near the surface. I wish I could see through the enormous cloud cover, which must be miles deep. It billows and leaps with a changing vivid yellow and red and green incandescence, as though reflecting great magnetic fires from some far down source. Now I suddenly seem to see through and catch sight of a reddish-brown formation extending in a curved line as far as mind's eye can see. Can it be Jupiter's Earth crust? It looks almost metallic, molten in spot, red hot, great vapors seething through. It gives me a dizzy sensation to look at it. I wonder if Ingo is getting anything like this, or what vision persons are taking. I don't know how close Pioneer 10 is designed to come to Jupiter in its bypass, but it looks like it will encounter powerful magnetic forces, winds of terrific velocity, and gaseous masses of possible poisonous and damaging nature. The atmosphere seems unusually dense on some levels and extremely rarefied in others. There appear to be huge volcanic peaks, great cones rising some miles in air, and deep frozen-looking crystal-colored valleys. There must be water, probably mostly in solidified or vaporized form. I don't get any sensation of heat or cold, and I don't hear what I see. It's like a silent movie, but I feel what I am seeing and sensing deeply, and it is awesome. I suddenly feel tired, somewhat sapped of energy. I am conscious of my body. I notice the back of my hands are bright red, flushed with blood. I have not observed this reaction before. I have to collect my senses. I have a strong, heavy sensation, like waking up from a sleep with a faraway feeling. Martha is calling me. Ingo is on the phone.
Well, that's marvelous. Now, at 6:03, I located the planet with stripes.
You did what?
Located the planet with stripes.
Yes.
And I said, I hope it is Jupiter. I perceived an extremely large hydrogen mantle.
You did what?
I perceived an extremely large hydrogen mantle, and if the space probe makes contact with it, it would locate it at about 80,000 to 120,000 miles out from the planet's surface. I see the planet in its half-moon stage. I see one half dark and one half light. I move to the lit side. It's distinctly yellow.
Yellow?
Or yellow, yes.
Interesting.
Yes. High in the atmosphere there are crystals which glitter, and maybe the striped-like bands of crystals are like the rings around Saturn, although not as far out as the Saturn rings are. And the crystals are just above the atmosphere. And I said, I bet they'll reflect radio probes. And then it feels good there. Inside I go through the crystal layers, both, and beneath that looks like roiling gas clouds, eerie yellow, light, but there's millions of rainbows glittering different colors. and they're thoroughly beautiful. I get the impression, but I don't see liquid. I came down through the cloud cover. The surface looks like sand dunes made of some sort of large crystals, and they slide beneath the tremendous winds. And tremendous winds. And these are like the prevailing winds on Earth, although they're much closer to the surface than they are on Earth. From that view, the horizon looks almost rose-colored or orange, but overhead it looks pale, glittery yellow, or pale yellow. If I look to what would be the right, I see an enormous mountain range with very high peaks in them. And if I describe where I feel I am roughly to where I would be on Earth, it looks like I would be where Alaska is on Earth if the sun were directly overhead. Which, when I turn to look at the sun, has a green corona around it. It seems much smaller, and it's whitish. I feel there is liquid somewhere. Why is that mountain huge? But it still doesn't poke up too far through the cloud covers. And then I recall I had a dream once like this, where the arcs of these crystal bands, these crystal things swept overhead. The sands beneath are made of grains which are quite large. They look like amber or obsidian, but they're yellow and not very heavy. The wind blows them and they slide along over each other. If I turn and look around, the whole horizon seems from here enormously flat, as if there's a different perspective quality there on Jupiter than here. If a man stood on the sands, I think he would sink in them. Maybe that's where the liquid feeling came from. I see something that looks like a tornado, and I wonder if there's not a thermal inversion here, that the surface is much, much hotter than the icy crystals which form the upperest atmosphere there. I bet there is a thermal inversion here. It's making it extremely warm. I bet the surface of Jupiter will give high infrared reading because the heat is held down. I seem to be stuck. I'm not moving. I'll move more towards the equator. I get the impression that there must be a band of crystals like the others, but these are sort of bluish. They seem to be sort of in permanent orbit. Down beneath these crystals is another layer of clouds, but they're moving extremely fast. Here there's a sea. It seems liquid, like water. And something's floating in it that looks like icebergs, but they're not icebergs. There's a tremendous wind. It's colder here towards the equator, perhaps because there's not a thermal inversion here. And then suddenly I was back. And that was that.
That's remarkable. We've got some similarities, don't you think?
I say we have some identical similarities.
Unremarkable, in fact. And yellow was the dominant impression, I guess.
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
Oh, now, were you reading me what had been recorded?
Well, Hal was taking notes, and he took those down as I was trying to describe.
Because that's so beautifully recited that I just hope that you got a record exactly as you spoke it.
Well, we have that, sort of. I think we have to shape it up just a little bit.
Yes.
Right. Now, you're very tired, aren't you?
A little bit. Now, I made a statement prior to this as to the method I used. I don't know whether you'd like to have me dictate that or not, it's a short statement or not.
Yes, go ahead.
Are you ready to take it?
Yes, it's here. It's being recorded, and we'll have them typed up.
Good. I would like to state before starting this test that while I've always been interested in the cosmos and man's relationship to it, I never had had occasion to study astronomy, nor am I versed in physics or chemistry, and the only general information I have about Jupiter is that it is the largest planet, that it has supposedly 11 moons or satellites, and is perhaps one of the most brilliant of heavenly bodies. This in itself may be suggestive, but I have found that the less I consciously know about a locale or a person, the more certain I am of the validity or accuracy of any impressions that may come to me. Whether I will receive impressions in the attempted mental probe of Jupiter in the form of visual images or perceptual feelings or both, I cannot say in advance of the test, but I will record in writing as nearly as I can convert into words what seems to come through, if anything. My method is simply to make myself unself-conscious of my physical surroundings, to fix my conscious mind's attention on the objective at whatever seeming distance, and let myself wonder what exists at that point. I have found that wonder is the key word for me. It frees my imagination from trying to guess or embroider whatever impressions I may be receiving, so long as I can maintain this fixation of attention. Apparently some faculty of mine makes contact instantly, unlimited by time or space, with the area it is directed to concentrate upon. If it were possible to hold the mind's attention on the locale or person once contact is made, for more than a split second of initial contact, then a state of awareness could be retained long enough to bring back reliable data on what may exist at that point, even including the reactionary feelings engendered in the sensitive during the contactual experience. Who knows but that the science fiction writers who have been imaginatively creating as they think fantastic ideas of other planets and civilizations, past, present, or future, may instead have been psychically tuning in on actual conditions from some higher source, or sources, coloring them somewhat with their own creativity, but basically producing facts, often later substantiated by scientific discoveries, or by actual Earth developments. This is an area of mind well worth extensive study and experimentation.
Well, I think we're on our way.
What does Dr. Putoff and Mr. Tarek think of this?
Very pleased to do the experiment.
They're very pleased, they say, since we both got similarities.
There's a remarkable agreement between the two narratives.
Can you have copies made and
Yes.
refine this a little bit and send it to me?
Russell just volunteered that there's remarkable similarity between the two narrations.
Well, thank Russell. It's now that we both of us, you and I, are objective
Yeah.
and are doing some evaluating, which I always do after impressions are received, I was quite thrilled, as I hope you were, to discover that we do have some amazing similarities.
Right. Well, I knew we would, but there was only one way to demonstrate that, and that was to do it.
What does the Pioneer probe look like?
Well,
Russell asked, what does the Pioneer probe look like? I didn't see it.
well, it seems to have a pointed nose to it and some kind of well, as nearly as I could see it, it looked more like a bullet, a large bullet with a head to it. That's about with some strange little side things on the sides that are not wings, but a little bit blunt in size. I mean, it isn't as elongated as my imagination would like to make it. That's about as near as I can describe what I seem to see.
Okay. Well, I think that we've located the crystals and the boiling clouds, and although I didn't particularly see a volcano, I certainly saw a chain of mountains which are enormous.
You described them as peaks.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I think I did the same.
Right.
Then you felt that there was water on the planet.
Liquid of some sort.
Liquid there is, no
Right.
question about it.
I'm not quite sure if we'd see it as water.
I didn't say it was water
Right.
in a sense. I said it was either solidified or vaporized, but not water as
Right.
we're used to seeing it.
Right. So,
I tell you,
We
more
agree.
similarities, I believe, will show up as you have a chance to study these.
right. Well, what I'll propose is that you're tired tonight, and I'm a little tired too. And when you...
That's quite a journey.
It's quite a journey. It was a little strenuous, to be honest.
You're darn right it is.
I felt that for the first time. Well, what I propose is, why don't we get in touch after you get back from Toledo, Ohio,
Yes.
and maybe we can take it a step further. Maybe we can go have another look together or something like that.
Yes. I think that I find that the impressions I've received is very refreshing and very challenging, but a rerun of something that's definitely the same, then the imagination has certain apparent facts that already exist in mind. And to attempt to build upon, I don't know how successful we'd be in furthering this. We might try something else.
Okay, we could try Mars.
Yes.
I agree with you. I always insist on taking the immediate response, and that's the one.
Yes.
Right.
Well, Ingo, it's been a thrill to work with you, and I do hope it has some significance.
Yes, so we'll get it all written up, and we'll get it in the right places and see what happens.
I'm leaving Sunday for Little Rock, and then I will be flying to Toledo for my lecture on Tuesday. I'll be at the office, my own office on Monday. You have my phone number in Al Bollock's office, don't you, or not?
Yes, I do.
Uh-huh.
And you'll be back then in Mountain View about
I'll be back on
the 4th.
on the 4th, late on the 4th, or certainly on the 5th.
Okay. Well, I'll
If
give
anything
you...
unusual comes up between then, you can get me at home here until Sunday morning.
Right. All right, well, we'll give this another whirl in the direction of Mars then.
Well, we'll try that.
Okay.
My best regards, Mr. Tark and Dr. Pillow.
All right.
Thank you and good luck to
Thank
you.
you.
They say thank you and good luck.
Good night.
Good night.
Congratulations.
Wow. That's great.
Right on. You see, he tends to business, doesn't he?
Yeah. He's obviously serious about what he's doing. Well,